I run RTL sorting games. I'm also got killed your cyberpunk character, but that's something else. So mostly, guys, I want to talk today about what's happening with the Mekton thing. I know that everybody here got that kind of drop out of the sky thing of basically the project being put on hold. But one of the first things I looked at was we had offered the option for everybody to get out earlier if they needed the cash. Because, you guys are not rolling cash, none of us are. So we wanted to, appreciate the fact that it was taking longer. We're going to talk about kind of some of what's going on with that. But at a certain point, I had to look at it and go, I cannot keep everybody tied up like this because there's just too damn much happening. Okay, so I'm going to kind of step through that a bit. Bear with me. One thing I'd also like to apologize for is our previous media dude, Kieran, who was a college student we had doing the job. We didn't know Kieran wasn't doing the job. And we checked on him, but it wasn't really getting done. So luckily, this magnificent gentleman over here, Jay Gray, who also writes for Fat Goblin and does Falkenstein stuff, as many of you will see when you drop by our booth. Jay stepped in and said, I really want to do this. And he is good.
Like you, I was very frustrated. I was not a backer, so I couldn't see the updates, but I was very frustrated to go to the comments and see that no one was answering you. And so when I was hired to do media, first I got the Facebook, and then slowly other things, and I said, give me the Kickstarter, and I will update, and I will talk, and I will answer questions, and because they deserve it, and they're right. And the thing is, they wanted to, and it's hard to be a small shop and keep track of everything.
Yeah, so people are really surprised. I know the CDPR guys were shocked to find that currently we're about 6 people. Talstorian at its biggest, Shock City, was about 12. And then we had about 50 to 60 outside writers, so forth like that. But yeah, we were always about 12. It was never a big shop, but we're 6. Part of that being is that we did not plan to do a big restart of the company. I had gotten out for a while, the industry crashed and burned. I went to work in video games at Microsoft and other places because I had a kid to support and a family, and the industry had kind of nosedived. So the result was we had kind of downsized everything. And then all of a sudden, bam, stuff exploded in the last 2 years. It's been insane. It's not bad insane, it's great insane, and we really appreciate you guys helped us explode it. But staying on top of it at 6 people, 7 now with him, is really insane. So that's been one of the problems, is just staying ahead because we don't have enough bodies. We thought by jobbing certain things to other people like Karen that it would be covered. It didn't get covered. And unfortunately, we did not have the time or bandwidth to keep checking on it all the time. So for that, I sincerely apologize. But I have done my damnedest to get somebody who is on it all the time. And he is on it. He texts me in the middle of the night and goes, hey, I got this interview. I answered these questions. I got this. And I go, Jay, when do you sleep?
And the answer is actually when you're awake, because I'm on the East Coast. Because commented that we started a few minutes early, I apologize. There's just, you can't make this man not talk.
They threatened to do something to me if I can. Actually, the only people who can are the polls.
Come on in, so here's the deal. Mike's going to talk, then he's going to open the floor to questions. We are recording this. We are not live streaming it because there is no internet access for us here. We are recording it. It will be put up on our YouTube channel. I'm not promising today or tomorrow because it takes time to, it's going to be an hour-long video and it takes time to upload that kind of thing to YouTube and for YouTube to process it. Long story short, technical. But by next week, it'll be up there so that your fellow backers and Nekton fans will be able to watch it and hear your questions and hopefully their questions and the answers that Mike's giving you. Because we are recording it, the camera's focused on him and no one can see you. It's just, we only have the one camera and we can't.
I put makeup on for this.
Yeah. And you look magnificent.
We'll get selfies later.
We can't swivel it back and forth or else it's going to be a very dizzying video and it'll be worse than playing Mirror's Edge. So
Good choice.
when you ask your questions, please ask them clearly and loudly. One of us may repeat it just so that the camera catches it, because we want to make sure that people hear both.
Okay. So let me step into things. Okay, so this is the fast picture going on with Mekton Zero, and one reason why I chose to do what I did. When I started Zero, Zero was a small project that I had pretty much set out to do as a personal labor of love. Okay, Mekton's never been our biggest seller, but I love Mekton. So it was basically set out as something simple. We did the Kickstarter, it got big, and it got big. And at one point we lost people at Talsorian, moved, some of them went back to school. So now we're doing it pretty much on 3 people, okay? So the scope of things also, which is one of the problems with Kickstarter, is expanded as well, because we found ourselves doing figures, t-shirts, patches, ref screens, other adventures, and finally figures, which we had never done.
If you have them, I would be glad to.
But these were all things we really wanted to do, but it is a hellacious amount of stuff to do for basically 3 or 4 people. We were moving on pretty well, except a couple of problems came up. One of them is, as many of you know, I've talked about it before, the hell of Quark. In fact, when he found I was using Quark,
Oh no,
he yelled at me.
I did. I did.
He yelled.
I do layout work too, and it was thank you.
Yes, when we had originally done Quark, back during Cyberpunk and all that, it was not a problem. It was stable as all get out. We knew what we needed. It worked. However, in the years following, Quark basically moved up from 4, where we were all the way up to 6. And we could not, because they had discontinued with it, just go ahead and say, oh, let's buy Quark 6. We had to actually do the upgrade path. When we did the upgrade path, what we have finally figured out is that it was buggy. Okay. The other problem with it was that we also, on suggestions, listening to what you guys want to do, we changed fonts to more interesting fonts, and those fonts did not work really well with Quark. I didn't notice when I walked in. So what has been typically happening is I will write an entire piece, lay it out, put it to bed, back it up on 3 different terabyte drives. I have 3 terabyte drives, and not know at the time that there is one small flaw somewhere in there in the file that corrupts the file. And I may not find it the first time I open it, the second time, the 5th time. But all of a sudden, bam, it fall apart. Case in point, it blew up about 2 months ago when I said, I can't leave everybody wait. I literally had, right now, the adventure and the source book are existing only on PDF. We're working to tear it out. So in the meantime, we said, screw this, it's not working. I rebuilt this thing about 9 times. It's not working. So we have been rebuilding the entire thing. We can't directly transfer it. We have been rebuilding it in InDesign. So we are now in InDesign. The layout is a lot simpler. I think you'll like it. I went back to the original design, which was a lot less the map backgrounds and all those, because those were also choking our rip. One of the useful things we got was Talsorian bought a actual pod printer. It's 20 feet long. It's like to the end of this room. It's huge. But you can put a book in it, it'll print the book out the other side, and you can see it. And when the rip ran, it said, what are you trying to do? And I got errors like up and down and sideways. And we realized that even if we cleaned it up, we weren't going to be able to run it to a printer. The printer would just go, the rip would choke. And we had control of our own rip, so we knew we had a problem. So, like I said, 2 months ago I said, we're tearing it all out, we're stripping all the writing we can, we're tearing apart the stuff that's been lost, and we're going to rebuild it. So that is what is partially happening right now, is it is being rebuilt, okay? Not onto Quark. When we walked in this, like I said, we used Quark for 15 years, never had a problem. Now we had all the problems in the world. So that's one. And what I had not realized at the time, and actually talking to Jay, I learned a bit today about it, is that it isn't the fonts, which is what we thought when we tore into it, and Dave Ackerman, our old production manager, actually came back to help me on it. We thought it might have been a font problem. It turned out there's actually a corruption problem converting up through 6. So it's messed up. But we're doing restructuring. So that's one of the things. Okay. 2, when we began this project, I didn't have anything else I had to do. I was teaching. We were basically doing the project. And it was, again, labor of love. And then midway through, you're about to go off the edge there.
Yeah.
Midway through, I got a call from some guys in Poland who wanted to do a video game. And they said, we would like to do Cyberpunk. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't think anything was going to happen. So I went out to Poland and found these are the guys who'd done The Witcher, which was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, beautiful game. And I said, well, okay, we can't pass this up. And on top of it, they were fans like you have been, good fans. So we said, yeah, okay, let's do this. And then they discovered that I worked in video games. The next thing I found was every 4 to 6 months, I was traveling to Poland. Get on a plane, travel for 9 hours, get off, stay there for a week and a half, spend intense. I'd go between all 3 studios, just these monster sessions. And then they would come out and do the same thing with me in Seattle. Whole team come out, we were usually about 5 guys in one area. Here's the story team. They're all coming out. They're going to be living on your porch in the back of Talsorian. We're going to be tearing the story apart. So I suddenly found myself equivalently doing what I had done at Microsoft full time and had not expected it. So I ended up kind of getting swamped in that, and we had a lot of big commitments on it. That was when I first looked at the idea of those of you who had committed to this giving you back your money, because it wasn't fair. You guys took a shot, and I know that the whole idea of Kickstarter is risk. I've been in 4 or 5 Kickstarters, and 2 of them blew up spectacularly, and I went, okay, fine. But that's some serious cash for some people too. So that was why we wanted to offer you guys a chance to opt out. And luckily, from what we were doing with CDPR, we got a lot of money, which we could do that. So that was an option. But we still thought we could get it wrapped up. And what's happened, as some of you who have been following E3, for example, and so forth, the Cyberpunk 2077 project has expanded even further now. So it's now insanely busy, insanely popular. So it's no longer just, I go ahead and, talk to people, every 3 months for, weeks. Or, call them up every other day, Skype, which in Poland is kind of weird. So what happens is now I'm doing interviews, and we're doing stuff, and reporting stuff, and so this has been eating time, okay? So we have basically a bad, perfect storm, okay? I'm not really happy about this, and so we had a long chat about the time when the 2 missions and the main book's 2nd and 5th section blew up, and we couldn't recover them, and we found it was the same through every single terabyte backup. And I said, okay, we're going to rewrite this, but I cannot in all conscience, particularly as we are doing now the Witcher project, that another project got started. We're doing Cyberpunk 2077. 77 has gotten everybody on us to get more stuff that was out of print back into print. We just got hammered. 6 people. So I looked at it and I said one day, guys, we need to buy everybody out so they're not stuck. We appreciate that you guys have stuck with us. We want to do this. And luckily, because of what happened with CD, we were able to do this and to pay everybody back, which normally doesn't happen in Kickstarter. But we could do it. We wanted to do it. We feel that's the right thing to do. And then we discovered, which we're working on right now, is that for many of you, it is really easy to get money into a Kickstarter and really hard to return money out of Kickstarter.
Kickstarter does not have a refund mechanism.
Yeah, they have no refund mechanism. What they do is you go through PayPal or you do direct or you have to do checks or any number of things. It took me 2 weeks to finally get PayPal to get me the action the ability to do what's called mass payments. So in general, what I did is I started with everybody who'd spent like the most money, because that must have really hurt, and I did those personally and went through them. And then I started just right up from the bottom, going all the way up to the top, and we've done down to the 500s, and we're about in the middle of the 400s right now. There are people who have changed their addresses, and where possible, when we have gotten those, Jay has coordinated and spreadsheeted them, but we have had mistakes where people have been duplicated, or we found out later when we did the mass payment. In general, out of the 602 people, we've gotten pretty much about 450. And we know that because when we send out the PayPal, we find out from that reporting whether somebody has picked it up or not. And if we don't see something, like it's gone unclaimed or whatever, we go back, Jay puts in the database, and we go hunt down why they didn't get it. So, but the process itself is insanely arduous. A number of you are going to have to also get checks because you didn't have PayPal when you did this. And so we have to actually send you checks. Some of the foreigns we're going to have to send checks because there's no way that PayPal will go back to some of the currencies. For all the foreigns, we have to actually individually break every single one of them up and do it by hand. They did not design this, but by God, we're going to do it. And I spend a ridiculous amount of time now, I'd say roughly about half my day, processing this, and then Jay backs it up. But we are getting everybody paid out. Like I said, we figure we've gotten about 450 people right now who should be, according to the reporting we're getting, have been covered, gotten their, what was the word I want? Refund.
To clarify, that's because in case the numbers don't match up, I believe I said somewhere around 501 in an update. What he means is 450. We sent out 501. 450 are claimed.
So we have ones that haven't been claimed. He pulls those.
Yeah.
We're going through. We're finding out why they haven't gotten claimed. There's a problem like that. But we are going to do that. And when we get back, we continue the process. We figure probably by the end of the month, it should be totally clear at that point. You'll either have gotten checks or gotten something with PayPal. But they did not design this thing in any type. I'm not even going to get into it. It's a nightmare. But we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Also along that line, one of the things we're doing is because you guys stuck with us, we did an estimate on it, and many of the parts have been begun to put together. Patches, T-shirts, things like that are there. And people ask, why don't we send it all out? The problem is that doing that, shipping-wise, is ruinous. Shipping is the number one way that Kickstarters kill themselves. We can get a bulk rate to send all your stuff and be able to do it, but we can't do it individually because it's just too darn expensive. It would wreck us. So what we are going to do to make it a lot easier is we're just going to give everybody figures, book, and all the other stuff across the board. Everybody who was in there gets basically the basic package. So they get the book, they get the digital, they get the rest screen, they get the missions, they get the whole 9 yards. So since you guys are all getting refunded, you're effectively getting it free. That's the deal. You waited this long, and you deserve that. And to be really honest with you, it's a lot easier for us to set it up that way so that you can get everything, but you don't have to wait until I can hammer space and schedule to do that. First I had to refund people, which I could be doing, design stuff and so forth. So that is where we are right now. I apologize again for Kieran's really exciting follow-up because we felt kind of betrayed by that. We're really sorry that we've had to go through a lot of this, but it is not right for you guys to be still sitting here wondering when it's going to happen. But when it happens, you are going to get your stuff. Okay? It may not be specifically because we're kind of resetting that you wanted 6 more figures, you're going to get a certain block of figures. Okay, so there was a system before we could buy extra. You're going to get a certain block of figures, which usually was 3 of each type, plus the Uru Killer and the Bendari Man. So those will be happening. In addition, by doing it this way, there's another good thing, which is that we will be able to then also, because we've now had some time, bring this out as a mainline product. So it won't be a Kickstarter, because we did the Kickstarter more or less as an experiment. It will be a mainline, mainstream Mekton product. And that means that we can actually put more people on it, more writers, and basically start spreading out the load, which will help us tremendously. It will help distribution to get things to you guys because you get it in your local hobby store for a change. And it will also mean that we can get pickup and follow-up product. For example, as I was discussing with some of the other people here earlier, we essentially set up a licensing deal a long time ago with Sunrise to do Mobile Suit Gundam. We finally, after 8 years, got somebody who could translate it, and we have had it laid out. So we just have to go back and start clearing that. So after we do Nekton, we're going to shoot to get Mobile Suit Gundam up too.
Cool.
So, which is why I started this company, to do Mobile Suit Gundam.
You're not kidding. If you look at read the
Oh, no, just
Cyberpunk and Witcher are happy accidents. This entire company is about that one game.
giant robots, man. No, everybody wants giant robots. So that's the basics. Along that line, as I mentioned a couple other people, one of the things I also want to do, because I will now have a little more reading room. We get Witcher's out. I'd like to thank everybody who bought Witcher, because we sold a ridiculous amount of Witcher, which makes my business manager happy. But we also are following with a lot of Cyberpunk stuff that we brought back into print. I have no more trips I have to make until November. Thank God. I didn't expect E3, I didn't expect Comic-Con, I didn't expect that stuff. But that means I can put my head down, wrap up the stuff on Cyberpunk Red, and get down to Nekton. And that's what I want to do. I want to see this game, because there's some really cool things. One of the cool things that all this drag time has taken is giving me another appreciation of how we're going to do it. So instead of just doing it from now on as a giant war game, which is primarily what Nekton was, we're asking a question, which is, what would it be like if you lived in a world where giant robots were common? Where Algol was like living in the middle of Jurassic Park all the time, and if you wanted to go outside of the fortified city, you were in a 35-foot tall mecha of some sort. And everybody who could afford about a mid-range family car could afford one. What kind of world would you have? So it's getting a lot more role-playing, a lot more science fiction. The figure designs are going to reflect that. We're getting new art done for new civilian designs instead of just the initial 6 we did. And we're going to play with it a bit and make a world which hasn't really been done before, and I'm kind of really excited about that idea. So it's not dead. We're going to keep doing this thing, but it's going to take time, and that means that you guys have committed, you've backed us, you've helped us, you've followed things. We are now committing somebody to stay on top of the communication.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not, man. If you left, I'd chain your feet to the floor.
Nope.
Yep.
So,
yeah, go.
No, I'm not going anywhere except for this week, because I've gone somewhere I'm here, and if you've sent me a message or the Kickstarter message, I have not replied, or I have not replied because I am here. And yeah, and it's
You even got me helping.
He
I'm
does.
just the camera girl.
yeah, she's been keeping up, and it's there's a backlog, and when I get home I'm gonna sit down and go through it, and I do apologize. It's just answering messages here is unfair to you, because I don't have the spreadsheets and the tools here.
Yeah.
The
other thing we talked about is that out of the Kickstarter, we now have emails for everybody for the most part. So that was one reason, besides doing the refunds, was to be able to stay in touch and to put together a mailing list. So that's another thing we wanted to continue this, so that we do stay in touch. So we're going to build this thing, and it's going to be cool, but I appreciate the fact you guys have backed us up, that you have been ridiculously patient, and I think we need to deliver. So that's what we're going to damn well do. But it also means I'm not going to hang on your money. You guys are going to get paid back, and we're going to start this square one and get you guys the game that we all want.
There may be some bumps along the road to being paid back. We're committed to working with you one-on-one. Or I'm committed to working. We all are, but when I say
Well,
we,
our business
I mean
manager is also committed.
yeah.
and everybody
I
else.
mean, I will work with you one-on-one to get the information to the people who will send it back. So if you don't get it, if something happens, if for some reason we say we sent it to you and you say no, I didn't receive it, we'll figure. I will talk to you. We will figure it out.
Yeah, we have tracking systems set up right now, so when somebody does collect, we know what's happening. And we thought we had gotten everybody, but in a couple of cases, we've actually given people payback twice, and once I think we did it 3 times based on the PayPal system. So we're sorting those out too, but they were kind enough to send it all back too. So that's where we are, and I'm going to open the floor to questions. He's going to point them out.
Yep. You know, you have a question, I'll point out. We did not anticipate being next to a concert, so please be loud. That's great for them, not so great for us. So, floor is open. We have plenty of time. The man is here. He's happy to answer. Go ahead.
What would you guess would be an anticipated new timeline for Mekton Zero with all the other stuff you have to do?
I want to set it up for fall of next year. That's realistic because we have basically new cyberpunk we have to do. We're committed to do that. I don't handle the Witcher stuff, and Red is already pretty much written, and I did that directly, straight on in design. I learned my lesson. So, and it's the most recent current in design, so it should work. So I'm looking at basically fall of next year. So, basically shoot for Christmas. We've got a lot of stuff that's piled up. I want to get it moved. I want to get new things. I want to get some new art. I want to get new mecha design. The style we're aiming for is going to be a little less super anime as we've done it before, and a little between realistic anime. Some of you guys may remember some of the model box type art for Gundam, and that we're aiming a little more as a real world because we're aiming this a lot more as a science fiction world. Yeah. Oh, wait, actually.
No, go ahead, please.
No, he picks.
So I noticed it looks like you have new copies of the Nekton core book.
Yes.
Are you guys printing them yourselves, or you said you have printed
Are we printing our current stock of Mekton Core ourselves?
Yes. Everything is being reprinted, and in addition, what we have been doing is also setting it up to be available on print on demand through Drive-Thru RPG. So you can get anything we've got, and we're bringing back all of that stuff.
So if somebody wants to get into Nekton, I don't have to tell them to journey to Darkest Half Price Books.
Nope.
There's a copy of Nekton Data.
We are appalled at the thing that we started finding of people selling our stuff at ridiculous prices. And we are working with distribution to make sure distribution is up to date, and we're making sure you guys get good prices. This is one reason why we went back and we reprinted Cyberpunk. We had some Cyberpunk, but when 2077 showed up at E3, we suddenly were shipping 500-600, in a week and a half, 2-week period, which is again 6 people packing all night.
We have a list of products which we have to try to find original files for, or failing that, make very good quality scans of existing copies.
Luckily, most of them, the later ones, we actually have decent things, and because we have our own RIP now, that means we can make sure we get clean copies to send. And that will then be available.
And we've got to also go with priorities. For example, we have to get Night City out next. We're getting a lot of requests for it, and
people getting charged $1,400.
As much as we like Mekton, eBay is not asking for $500 for a Mekton book. So over time, and as we get better at the process, more books, and the commitments, all the old stock eventually.
Yeah, everything will get back into print. So we're starting from go.
Over there, please. He had his hands up first, and then you.
So you said it yourself at the beginning. Mekton has not been your biggest seller. You said it at the very beginning.
It's true.
Very close to your heart, and but it is why you started the company. Mekton Zero, because it's almost more like it sounds. I think you said it last year too. It's like pat labor. You're kind of looking more like a pat labor type of thing, where the mecha are more like a part of everyday life. It's
yes.
A greater variety of functions than simply war.
Yeah.
So we know Mobile Suit Gundam there's experiencing resurgence right now in the West. It's becoming very popular again. But Mekton Zero it's not Gundam.
No.
My question to you is, where do you see your marketing opportunities for getting the word out about Mekton Zero to people that might be interested in it but aren't necessarily in this sphere? Have you thought about other ways of distributing?
Sorry about that. We've actually been thinking about that quite a bit. What we discovered is there's an awful lot of, I have a giant robot and I beat the crap out of something. But we don't have more than we fight the other guys, or we fight 300-foot tall Pacific Rim monster because nobody has that license yet. And so it's limited. But if you have a world, for example, I'll give you a case in point. I had a player who played essentially a mecha cowboy. On the plains of Algol, in the wind-whipped steppes, we have gunfart, which are these enormous six-legged, moss-eating critters. And there are really, really big, nasty things that kind of resemble electrical wolves that hunt them. And so you're out there, basically in a power serape with an enormous gun and a 30-foot tall mecha guarding your herd. It was a great game. We had rustlers, we had all kinds of good stuff. We have had people doing police and protective fire service runs. We have had people doing medical triage. In fact, one person actually built and reconfigured one of the larger Dorians to go out and become a vet, a large animal vet, which in Algol means a large animal could be 35, 40 feet long. So we just started asking, what can we do with these things? And it's not an area anyone's done anything with. It's, Pat Labor is the closest. And to be honest, why do Gundam if we already have, a deal in place to do Gundam? Why reinvent the wheel? They did a great job. I'd rather do more Gundam for that and make Algol and that world much more interesting and put more depth behind it.
I guess my question is more on the lines of how do you plan to get the word out about it? How do you plan to let people know? Have you thought about advancing in Crunchyroll, for example, or have you thought about reaching out to anime media outlets, or have you thought about that sort of thing? Kind of more when I was asking.
We've actually done a couple YouTube pieces that she's been working on, but in addition, what I would like to do is actually what Sunrise did when they did Gundam Unicorn, which is they did a light novel, and they serialized it, and they put it up in a site where you could go to it on a monthly basis. You got new stuff, and they detailed all the mecha for that particular part of the light novel. They detailed all the characters, gave them backgrounds, and as more was done on the actual Gundam Unicorn piece, they actually put in pieces, pictures and information, and some video clips, so people could follow and get in the storyline. So we want to tell people the story. It's one reason I'm resurrecting Jeff and his friends, because they are kind of the typical guys who get a giant robot and don't want to necessarily fight.
So, and also to answer your question, in a way Mike's not thinking of, but it's my job to think of, we have found, the last couple months we've got a lot of capital in media because of Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077. We have a lot of people looking at us and saying, hey, what more can you tell us? And as we make those contacts, they are often willing to listen to other things. And so when we have things to show them at IGN or GameSpot or any number of YouTube influencers, we can go out and say, hey, we've got this. You may want to look at this. You may want to do a video about this. You may want to do an actual play of this. And as anyone who has watched Critical Role or listened to Adventure Zone knows, the biggest advertisement for any role-playing game is not a news article or is not a banner across the top of a website. It is people playing the game in an entertaining way. And that is when we have a game that we can do that way, where we can give it to people as more than a compilation of notes, we're going to look for those people and say, here's a game. Please play it.
And we're really lucky because in the last few months, particularly with the interest in Cyberpunk and with Witcher, we've met a lot of really cool people who have those eyeballs and are really interested in what we do because it's something new to them. Or, in a couple of cases, it's something that they knew about, that they played, and they're really happy to see it happen again. So there's some solid Nekton fans out there going, so when are we going to do Let's Play of that?
As digital media arts maven and one behind the camera, I've got a solid investment in this. I can assure you, we're trying to get our ways out there into different social media I really enjoy role playing. I'm part of the family now. Like, we're trying to get this out here because we love this.
And it's fun. It's like a big party to get to see you guys, you know, like, and hopefully we'll get to see you more than just like one big Gen Con a year, you know.
Go ahead, sir.
You mentioned regulating once we have drive-through. Are you doing the same like miniatures or maybe STL files or for 3D printing?
Let me repeat his question.
Yes.
He asked, because we are working on reprinting our books and putting them in print on demand, are we going to also work on miniatures in as files that people can download and 3D print on their own?
We are working on that right now. We actually have finally gotten, we went through 6 different miniatures designers to get miniatures. And finally our art director, who's also named Jay coincidentally, she found actually 2 people who were just spectacular at it. So we are going to bring miniatures out. Right now what we're doing is setting the preparation. We've gotten some preliminaries done. And we have STL files. They're all being designed STL because another thing we want to do, since I work in video games, is I actually would like to do a couple Nekton phone game level things. You know, kind of a Mekton support. So when we get this tied down, we'll probably make those files accessible. The ones we have so far that we've run actually came out really well. We did a vector and a mauler, and the interesting thing about what we're doing with figures is we are doing them in effectively 1/400 scale, much like the Gundam collectibles. So instead of the 1/285 or 1/300 scales, which are like that, and really big and really hard and put together to carry and all that, we went for something which will come out to be roughly about 28mm size, just like a character figure. So it'll paint like a regular role-playing character. And there's 2 reasons. One, we want to be able to have big crowds in your city. You know, there were 100 guys running around, you know, and we had a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't just a war. But 2, we also wanted to get something that really got across the fact that you and your suit are one, and you're in the suit. We've also done STLs larger, which bring them into 15mm scale. So what we're doing is we're scaling to the people, rather than scaling to the classic military size. So, for example, a 15mm mauler is about that tall. And we've run those out quite successfully as STL files. And we have digital printers now. And they work really well.
I have a question from the community.
Sure.
Someone asked, will Quicksilver Blues also see a release?
Quicksilver Blues. Not at this time.
Not at this time?
Yeah, the problem with it is that Quicksilver Blues has one problem. It has a lot of similarities to Cowboy Bebop. And as anyone who's gone through the Macross Wars, the Robotech Wars, the Battletech Wars, we lock down licenses and we don't want to offend anybody, because if you offend one person in Japan, you offend Sunrise, everyone remembers.
Yes.
I do not want to walk into a meeting with a whole bunch of people who look at me and suck their teeth and go, Pondsmith. Okay, I'll leave now.
In regards to Gundam, will that cover just Universal Century or all the various timelines?
What we're doing is we're translating an existing UC-based Gundam First series. Okay, so that's classic Zenkai Gundam. And that's what we are essentially doing, is we're translating what they did, interesting enough, in Japan, using Mekton, which was kind of fun. I've actually seen pictures because several of the people who published it there sent us conventions where they had entire floors of Gundam stuff in 1/400 scale. And I said, yeah, we have to do that one day. So it will start with that. We'll see how it works. Gundam is a wish list. We have a ways to go before that can happen. You know, even though we have now a translation, we still have to go back and talk to Sunrise. It has been about 10 years.
The last thing anyone wants is to find out something's changed and another promise has been made.
Yeah.
And no one wants the 5 people Robotech own the rights to situation.
Yeah, like I said, I lived through that because we worked with Harmony Gold before they actually put Robotech together, and the license rights were a nightmare. We talked to a lot of lawyers and depositions.
So this is sort of like I remember buying the old Gundams, like the series TV set and then finding on one of them they had the Votoms RPG by you guys.
Yep.
I was curious, both like how did you guys end up doing that in 1997? I think most people over here have never heard of it, and also what's the status of the license? Like, could we ever see that in reprints, or is that just something
Probably not, because the entities we worked with to do that don't exist anymore.
Mike, I'm not enough of. There are too many terms. My gaming specialty is steampunk, so I can't repeat all those terms. But if you could, you were, he was a little quiet. I don't think the microphone picked him up. If you could say.
Oh, you want to repeat that?
No. If you could, just
You can
explain.
repeat that to the camera.
Explain
Right.
what
We're
you're
really
explaining.
Okay. Yeah.
They're just so loud.
The question was essentially whether or not we would be able to do something like repeat or reprint our original Votoms, Armored Trooper Votoms license that we did. That was one of our mid-90s products. Most of the stuff we do, we have done, Japanese licensing, we have done through American entities that work with the Japanese, which makes everybody happy, because then there isn't a question of who has the rights. They're the guys licensed to do it. So like when we did Dragon Ball Z, we worked starting off with Viz and I'm trying to think of the name of them now. Not Central Park. At any rate,
Funimation? Funimation?
Yeah, Funimation, right. So we worked with Funimation directly, and that made it a lot easier. And when they had questions, we had to go talk to Shueisha. They already knew people. We knew people. We went back. We talked to them. We could get all ironed out. So there was no question as to how we would do a Dragon Ball Z game. In fact, in the end, it worked out very well because we ended up working with Shueisha and then even getting stuff sent back and talking directly to Toriyama, which was really cool. But those entities don't exist now. A lot of those companies we work with. We ended up getting Votoms because, one, I love Votoms. Two, we happened to run across an American writer who was Mr. Votoms. He knew everything about it, and so we basically said, okay, we'll get you the license, go write it. And he wrote it. It was awesome.
Was that Tim Eldred?
Tim Eldred. Yeah, no, actually it wasn't Tim Eldred. That was, I'm sorry, it escapes me. Tim worked on other projects, but not directly on anything we were doing. Then the same thing kind of happened with Dragon Ball. We knew some people who were interested, and we picked up Dragon Ball that way. And Gundam was working the other direction. They wanted to do Mekton Seminar. So once you kind of get things going with the companies, it gets a little easier. But it's also, the big translation situation. The problem with Votoms now is there isn't anybody that we know of who actually holds those licenses. So we'd have to go back and talk to them.
It's discotheque now.
Yeah, it's up in the air. We have no idea.
I know some of the videos are supposed to be releasing it, but I can't.
So going back to
I hope so.
Mekton Zero, with this preliminary date for fall 2019, is there?
Not this fall, next fall.
2019.
Yeah.
Would there be a possibility for let's say a playtest of what is to come, or just so that people have a?
Yeah, that's one reason why.
Repeat the question.
Would there be a possibility of playtests
Yes.
for an upcoming Mekton Zero?
Let me ask you. Playtest is happening where people can come and play, or playtest has like a playtest document people can look at.
Yes,
what
something like a
Pathfinder's
sample
coming out.
adventure, something that showcases what's new, what's exciting, what's going to make this the best Mekton ever.
Yeah, actually, that's quite possible. It's one reason why we want to hang on to your numbers and names, so we can talk to you guys about it. We like having playtesters.
And no one deserves it more.
Yeah.
Quite honestly.
Anybody else? Come on, guys.
Time.
Sure. Is there a plan for any kind of digital suit building software to customize?
We actually have one that we use, and when we get, what I want to do is make an active fill-out form for it. So there is a plan for it.
Please make sure to repeat the question. That way.
Is there a question? Yes, sorry about that. The question was, do we have plans for a digital suit building app of some sort? And yeah, I have one now that we use to build suits. Cody and I do it. And it is unfortunately in Excel, but we are working on converting it to an app. Our hope is to do that, plus almost everything else we do to get useful apps out of it.
They like that too.
Thank you, thank you. More apps.
Sir,
So, I mean, it's a shame that all this happened, but now that you've got, some fresh perspective, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you're excited about that you could say, now we can really relook at this, and this is something I really want to do anyway, so now I've got the opportunity to do it, so I'm going to do it.
When I started the design in this, the design was essentially a war story, because the original Mekton and white box Mekton had been a war story. And that was okay. The Kargan Larns, I had put a third faction in, which was going to be the Atarans, and I was starting to look at what the Mirians would do. But then I realized it's a war story, and it's always a war story. So it becomes, let's get a bunch of units out on the board. So somewhere along the line, I think I had started, I was looking at Zoids, as a matter of fact, and I said, Zoids, and there was an episode where somebody drives their Zoids into a roadhouse, and they're sitting around and, getting drinks and looking for jobs. And I said, you never do that in a war story. But you do that in a place where people had mecha and used them in other ways. And I went back and I saw that, and I looked at Pat Labor and a couple others, and I said, they almost never do this, but it would be really cool. So the next question became, and people asked why I picked Algol, was what kind of world would need giant robots effectively on everyday life? And Mark Simmons, who's actually Mr. Gundam, if we ever do Gundam again, Mark's going to be involved. He is like literally Sunrise sees him as the American Gundam dude to go talk to. When they're doing things, they go to see Mark. And Mark and I spent like a weekend or two just coming up with all these insane animals and things going on in the ecology of Algol. Why do some things have 6 legs? Why do some things, fly the way they do? What's on the islands? What changed between... I am an amateur paleontologist and geologist, so I spent a lot of time hopping rocks and looking at big dead things. And I came out of it going, yeah, okay, so how does this planet really work? How did it evolve? Why do we have these creatures? Why are people landing on a planet where, a T-Rex is kind of small? And I said, this would be a really cool world. So that's what I'm excited about but to do it, I need to get my deck clear, and I need to not deal with some of the other commitments. For example, we need to get things further along in Cyberpunk 2077. I have a commitment to 500 people, many of whom don't speak English and would kill me. But yeah, they're great guys, seriously. But yeah, I have that commitment. I have, because of that, other things that I have to deal with before I get to do the fun stuff. But frankly, I like messing with Algol. And Mark and I spent, like I said, like a whole 3 or 4 days just designing weird animals and cities and what the mecha looked like and what did people dress like and, that sort of thing. It was a fun place.
Yeah. Sounds like there's going to be a really good chunky section in there on just the world.
It's going to be more integrated. It's going to be from the get-go. I brought back, in the new rewrites, I brought back the character, some of you remember from White Box, Piers the Historian. Originally written, he was kind of the classic, then there was history. But I rewrote him as a snarky grad student who was basically going up for his doctorate and had to write the history of Algol, and he didn't take it seriously, but he was the only person who had applied to the faculty position at Monadan University for history. So he felt like he could get away with anything. So I got this wonderfully snarky voice of this guy in his mid-20s just going, yeah, I got to do this, but here's what the real story is. And I love Piers. Piers is just such a snark dude right now.
So this is let me say beforehand, this is a satirical question. This is entirely this is not serious. When is the Mekton video game coming out?
Oh, I'd love to do that. I do not think CD Projekt Red will do it though. I want to do this for years, and we've experimented with, things. That is why we have STL files for the mecha instead of hand. The first 3 revs, we tried to get figures done. We had it done by Greens, and then we had STL files, and the guys doing them knew how to do them, and that will allow us to do at least some simple video game stuff. I'm looking for like a cell phone app that allows you to move your mecha around a bit, and what I really love to do is build something where you could have an interactive, long-term running world. So you go, okay, what happened on Algol today in the ongoing, war with the Caribbean fam? Something that could continue the world.
Wish list items.
Wish list items. Like I said, I love that game.
Wish list items.
Some of the best games we ever had.
More money, more manpower,
Hence
more
why I
special
said
things. But yes,
it's intended
yeah.
as a satirical
The
quest.
satirical answer is after Castle Falkenstein gets a game.
Yeah. We're going to bring Castle back into print, but we're still battling exactly when and how.
Yes. Anyone else?
Sure, I got one. So if we're looking at non-military style gameplay in Mekton
And military.
any thought of something like an IGPX where it's a racing combat game?
Yes.
Oh,
Repeat the
like,
question.
Like the somewhat poorly made Henry Gear cartoon?
Basically what he's
But better,
asking
but
is
better.
the idea of mecha sports, mecha racing, and that sort of thing. That was one reason why I found Zoids was really inspirational. The Zoids said, okay, if I have a giant robot, what kind of sports would you have with it? So we sat down, and Mark and I basically dreamed up every darn mecha sport we could come up with, And then my son Cody, who's kind of experimental, he came up with a character whose entire purpose life was he ran a mecha building corporation that specialized in racing and luxury mecha. And so we got tons of just insane designs of these beautiful, the equivalent Ferraris for mecha. And we said, what would happen if you had a Tesla in this world? What would he build, So yeah, we thought a lot about we've got cops, we've got pop stars, we've got slots for, woodsmen, fishermen. We had a great fisherman story where one of the characters was swallowed by a Grigor dragon and had to hack his way out. He's yelling on the radio the whole time, I'm okay! I'm okay, I'm down by its lungs, I'm okay! So yeah, basically we have thought about a lot of different kinds of mecha sports, including rat racing for pink slips. Anybody else?
Any other Mekton related questions, or do we want to turn off the recording and have live session with anything else? Can you have 10 more seconds? Okay, I'm turning off the recording.
Oh, hang on. I want to wrap up.
Pardon?
I want to thank you guys for coming here. I want you to know that things are shifting. We have Jay on the case, for example. We have Tara. We have the rest of the team pulling together. We want to see this thing happen. This is probably the best path we can think of. Everyone's going to get paid out. Everybody's going to get their stuff. That is the promise I made. And he's going to beat me up if I don't do it. And if he does it, my son will beat me up. My son knows, I don't know how many martial arts. He's pretty bad.
If you stop by our booth, you'll see our Witcher swords. They're real swords. And Cody does
Yeah, he knows how to use all of them.
He really does.
Yeah, family arguments are really kind of interesting around our house.
As it's said around the household, never surprise Pondsmith. When I first started in the family, surprise them. You regret it immediately. They all know martial arts.
We got you your own swords.
Wife of Cody Pondsmith, first time I tried to surprise him for his birthday, got choked out almost.
Oh, now you're making it sound like he's a wife abuser.
I jumped out of the closet. He was ready to go down.
Anyway, as you can see, we have a fun company and a fun bunch of people there. But unfortunately, there are not a lot of them, and we're adding more people all the time. But that's going to allow us to do the fun stuff we want to do. So I want to thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it, and for cutting us a lot of slack. We really do appreciate it. You guys have been good. Solid.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you guys out there, we are going to get this sucker done.